Howdy, hey everybody. Back at it in my car. So today I wanted to talk about religion. Go figure. It's actually been a while since I've had a good rant. This one's going to be a little bit about abuse and how we kind of normalize it. And what I think part of it has to do with, at least. Now, I feel as if, though, when it comes to Christianity, and people like us who have left the faith, you know, as we're raised in Christianity, I think it teaches you what abuse is and calls it love, you know? It's why if you're a Christian, you might have had, you know, arguments with non-religious family members or that bratty atheist child of yours. And they're bringing up every horrible thing in the Bible, and how dare they point out where God is at fault or where God is being, quote, monstrous. You know, he's God. He's above that. You can't do that. I want to give you a little bit of closure as to why they're pointing out those bad things. Chances are, as a parent, you probably instilled some sort of value, some sort of standard of justice, of love, of empathy, of right and wrong. And sometimes when you do this well enough, they exercise that same standard, that same measure, to their God. I'm one of them. And let me tell you, with the values that I was raised on, which were Christian values, God didn't even pass that test. That's why you can find so many, you know, atheist videos online of, like, you know, bringing up the verse of, you know, love is kind, you know, it doesn't boast, it's patient, and how, you know, God's love within not just the Old Testament, but the New Testament doesn't live up to his own standard. But the main crux of Christianity is one of an abusive relationship. I'm not here to debate whether that's true or false today. I'm just going to be coming from the position that it is. So if you don't like that, be sure to leave a comment. I'm cool with that. Might answer it, might not. But the reason that I wanted to talk about this today, and I guess what kind of reminded me of this topic, too many Christian couples I know in insanely abusive relationships, whether it's verbal, whether it's physical, whether it's sexual, or whether it's emotional, you know. And sure, I know you could say, well, no, not my Christian relationship. Certainly, I'm not calling out that every single Christian relationship is an abusive one. However, I think that Christianity, as a religion itself, I think it breeds, you know, a fertile ground for that. You know, you got the story of, you know, sowing the seed. And I think Sunday schools, you know, kids does that pretty well. You know, the biggest view or the biggest portrayal of God's love is the love that he gave his own son. He sacrificed. He's willing to kill his own son for you. He loves you that much. I don't think of any parent who would kill their own son because they loved somebody so much. I don't call that love. I call that abuse. But let's give it to him. Just for sake of argument right now, let's give it to them. Why did God have to kill his son? Well, to save you. That's the love, you know, that's the point of the love. He loves you so much that he is willing to give up his own son so that you may live in eternity, possibly. You know, there's a big asterisk. Wow. There's a big asterisk next to living in eternity, possibly. But the whole reason for this sacrifice is, you know, sin. You know, sin came into the world when Adam and Eve disobeyed God. I don't know how they could have disobeyed God. they hadn't known right from wrong yet. They didn't get punished. They didn't get punished until they ate from the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. They didn't know right from wrong yet. They didn't know good from evil. So that's like punishing a baby for picking up the glass on the countertop, or not the countertop, but the coffee table, and accidentally pushing it off the coffee table and it breaks. And imagine you damn their children and children and the children of their children and the children of their children, the great-grandchildren of their children, so on and so forth, to prison forever. Wouldn't make much sense. This is very abusive. And we are trained from a young age, at least here in the United States, that it's love. And I think that when you teach somebody that this is love, I think that's going to carry into their other interpersonal relationships and how they view love and what love really is. You know, you've probably seen posts online, edgy little Reddit atheist posts of like, you know, I beat you because I love you. You're imperfect without me. You're disgusting. You're worthless without me. And it's like, you know, God is the ultimate abusive husband. And we're the ultimate battered wife. And to an extent, I think it hits it sort of on the nail. It leaves a lot of open space. But I mean, you can only put so much into a bite-sized little, you know, graphic with a couple sentences on it, you know. There's no silver bullets. They don't exist. But these things that we call God's love, I think are just really overlooked. You know? A lot of Christians here today don't agree that we should be looked bad at for the sins of our ancestors. They call that racism here. And if you know what I'm talking about, congratulations. I'm with you. But there are people here today who are fighting against curriculums in school because they feel ultimately they feel bad, I guess. Whatever, dude. But if you bring up, you know, those magical 3 letters to a Christian, they'll say, that's racist. That's got nothing to do with me. That was my ancestors. You can't make me feel bad for that. And to get on a quick tangent, I don't think that's the point. I don't think making you feel bad is the point. I think it's a matter of reflection, and, you know, you can't solve the problem and the wounds that are caused later from an issue if you can't even admit that there was an issue to begin with. But this isn't a story. This isn't a video of American racism, okay? That can be a whole nother video, honestly, if you want, but not right now. I'm on the way to work, and so I don't have that long. But they'll tell you, on the grounds of principle, you basically shouldn't be punished, or you shouldn't have to feel bad, or you shouldn't. It's nothing on you what your ancestors did. And it's so fucking ironic. It's so ironic. Like, that's the whole point of Christianity. Like, inherited original sin. That's the whole point. And like, it's this standard they give to, well, God's good. It's okay for God to do that. He's the big boy. He can make the decisions. Basically, they're describing a dictator now. He can do what he wants because he's the dictator. But essentially, original sin, the reason we need Jesus here to save us is because we inherited sin because 2 people who didn't know any better ate the wrong fruit. And people will say, oh, well, God told them not to, so they should have known better. I don't think so. Like, oh my gosh. Go talk to your, like, average, like, child psychologist and, like, ask them about how we are socialized in this society and how we learn right from wrong as we're being raised especially by our parents, seeing other people. Media comes into that. There's so many things that comes into our upbringing. And Adam and Eve had nothing. It writes it out as if God just plucked two adults there, fully socialized, fully intelligent, knowing right from wrong. Yet it says that they didn't know right from wrong because they weren't allowed to eat from the tree that gave them that. The only way out is people will say, oh, well, they knew right from wrong. And then it's like, okay, so then what was wrong from eating from the tree that gave that? But I don't think they knew right from wrong. They hadn't eaten from the knowledge of good and evil yet. They were there, and they were going to name all the animals, or at least Adam was, and there was nobody but them. And God wasn't down there spoon-feeding them Gerber. He wasn't even being the good parent. He put them down there naked. And apparently, being naked, being nude, was sin. Because guess what happened? The moment they ate from the knowledge of good and evil, the knowledge of right and wrong, as soon as they popped that sucker, they realized, oh my God, we are naked. And when you read this in Genesis, it even like the way it's written, the way you read it sounds like this is bad. We're not supposed to be naked. And that begs another question of, well, then why the hell did God make them naked to begin with? And he doesn't start becoming a parent until he comes back down. He's walking through the garden. Yeah, he used to walk upon the face of the planet. Now he just helps you find your car keys, and he saves one person in a fucking Oklahoma tornado. But I don't want to get too carried away, because the moral of the story is the immorality of the story. The whole purpose of God needing to save you, that being original sin. Which most American Christians disagree with that concept on principle. Whenever I brought up the school curriculums, and they say, you shouldn't be, nope, that's got nothing to do with us, because we're not them, and they're not us, and that one, nope. And yet, whenever it comes to original sin, that just makes absolutely fucking sense. That makes absolute sense to them, apparently. It apparently makes absolute sense that someone can do something wrong, apparently thousands of years ago, and you deserve to be punished for it. But don't worry, I've got the solution. I've given you the illness, and I'm here to sell you the medicine. Except we don't even know if the medicine is real, but you just got to take their word on it. And the only reason you need saving is because this sin that you're born in makes you disgusting. It makes you worthless. And anytime I put it like that, a Christian will be like, no, that's not what it's like. And the same Christians that will say that, I have been to sermons, I have been to church services with them, where the pastor got up to the damn podium and he said those same words himself. It's where I got it from. And yet they're hush-hush. It's all hush-hush when the pastor says it, because they agree. But whenever you're actually a person who disagrees with it, and they're like, damn, I'm sitting across from someone who does not believe like I believe, and they're actually kind of tearing it apart a little bit. They're picking things apart. They have to defend it any other way possible. They're defending abuse, and they're calling it love. I don't think this is a good thing. This is not a good thing to teach our children. And I'm not just talking about Christianity, but I'm talking about what it means. I don't got anything necessarily against taking kids to Sunday school, things like that. I had fun as a kid at Sunday school. It scared the hell out of me. I was afraid of the dark because I was afraid of demons. I was afraid of hell constantly. I was afraid if I did the wrong thing, took the wrong step, ate the wrong food, that I would go to hell. It was terrifying as a kid. I'd call that abusive. But you point to any situation in the Bible where God is giving his love, and it's just another story of abuse. And it's funny because he says, love does not boast. Yet, and I'm gonna get the group of people wrong. Just prepare to call me out. I think it might have been the Amalekites. I don't know. But God struck down a certain group of people and then said, yeah, I struck them down just so that they know I'm God. How egotistical, tyrannical, fucking megalomaniac ass bullshit is that? Yeah, I'm gonna kill them just so they know I'm me. That's like the school bully. I'm Terrence. You listen to me, kid. And they fucking like stomp you in and then take your milk money or whatever. But I think this carries over to how you hold yourself, how you compose yourself. I mean, your beliefs do inform you how you view the world. That car's farting. When it comes to people that I've met who are in the most abusive relationships, and I'm thinking of one right now in my head. I'm thinking of a specific couple who fight tooth and nail every fucking day. Every day. At each other's throats. Spitting the most vile, malicious words from their tongue that they can at any given fucking moment. Sounds like they need therapy, right? I agree. Take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. When you take him to water and they kick you with the back of their hoof, don't blame yourself for quitting out on that either. But this couple looks at the abuse and they call it the most love. The most love. Absolutely disgusting. Their abuse is so widespread, it's so out in the open. The neighbors know about it. And somebody had gone to them, not me, but I'm trying to protect identities here. Somebody had gone to them and said, I'm really worried about you guys. This person was so worried about this couple that they were worried that one of them was going to kill the other. And the wife, she said, if that didn't contend with it, didn't say, oh, that'll never happen. She immediately uttered these words from her mouth. If that happens, you need to help the other one. Like to hide the body because we do truly love each other, and I wouldn't want him going to prison. He wouldn't want me to go into prison. I hope you're flipping the fuck out over this shit, because like I know hearing it firsthand is different than just hearing the story from some guy on the internet, but holy hell. And this wasn't sarcasm. This wasn't like light and funny. Hee ha ha ha. This was dead serious. Like, this person is contemplating, like, yeah, it's possible one of us could kill the other. Just please hide the body because we truly, truly love each other. Both of these people come from a very toxic religious background. Still in the faith, but they're a little open about how the Christianity they grew up with. I think they're still in the Christianity they grew up with. They just interpret it a little bit differently. But the Christianity that they grew up with, they admit is toxic. And I'll agree. The stories I've heard about their pastors, their church, their parents, very toxic and abusive. It's a shame they never outgrew that. But let's not pretend that there isn't a common denominator in this situation. I'm not gonna act for a damn minute that this religion doesn't just, make all this abuse just a little bit more potent. If religion is supposed to be this grand and amazing thing that makes your life better, oh, Jesus changed me, makes everything great. I know a Christian, I can already hear a Christian saying, like, no, it's not. Actually, for followers, they're going to be persecuted. They're always going to be in shambles. It's like, Jesus Christ, why are you in this religion? Fuck. Sounds like a hellhole. But I don't think something that's viewed as good. I don't think following an all loving and apparently just God should entail this much abuse. Something like this would help out. I will tell you, if I was a loving God, I would intervene all the time. And Christians all the time, they'll give you this biggest bullshit ever of, well, you have free will. If God were to stop and do anything, he would be overriding your free will. And these same motherfuckers, these same motherfuckers would be like, guess what? God helped Shirley last Tuesday. Yeah, she had just went under for surgery, and God had helped the surgeon. He moved the surgeon's hand, and he helped her through her recovery. And then this Monday, I lost my dang car keys. Bless me, God bless me. I lost my car keys, and guess what? God turned them right up. Guess where they're at? They were in my purse, under the cash that I was planning to not tip the Olive Garden server. God works in such mysterious ways. Out of one hand, God will work in mysterious ways. He'll save one person out of the 23 in a plane crash, but I don't know, if a child's getting abused, God doesn't touch that because he cares too much about the abuser's free will. That ain't love, son. That ain't love. That ain't love at all. And by now it should be obvious what I mean when I say he doesn't hold up to my standard of justice. Now, I wasn't planning on bringing up this topic, but this is a good point to segue into it. And I'm not diminishing any of this situation, but I do need to soften the language a little bit so that I can, so I don't have to worry about. I don't know if YouTube would take it down if I bring this up or not. So I'm gonna change the language down a bit, and I just want you guys to know I'm not pulling some Alex Jones bullshit. I'm not diminishing this whatsoever. But you know the place you go to learn. You go learn there. Somebody shows up, and they pew pew pew. That's all I'm going to say for right now. You know what I'm talking about. Again, I'm just softening the language. I don't want this video to get blocked or some bullshit. You know what I'm talking about. We're going to go with that. A specific situation in Uvalde, right? The officers there, if you know anything about it, they didn't do shit. Would you call that justice? You ask anybody, pretty much anybody, like even the Blue Lives Matter crowd, agree with this, that was wrong. When you swear that oath, when you put on that vest, when you get your badge, you're taking an oath. And for those of you, I'll call it the anarchists, yes, I'm aware that legally speaking, the cops don't actually have to do anything. I'm not defending that. But I'm pointing out, I'm trying to portray a situation where there's someone there with the means at hand to act. And they have the choice. They have the power to act. There's a great evil happening in that building. And you can give this scenario to like a family member. You can say, hey, if there was a pew-pew at the learning place, and let's say that there was a super cop, and he knew 100% if he went in that school, he would immediately neutralize that threat. Right? And then you ask them, would it be immoral for that super cop to sit on the sidelines and say, I'll handcuff him when he comes out? Any fucking normal, rational, thinking human slice of pizza would absolutely say, yeah, that's fucked. And yet we give God a fucking pass. We give him a fucking pass. He's like arbiter of the universe. We should be holding him to a higher standard than we hold our fucking cops. And we give him a fucking pass! Oh yeah, he created us. He gets a pass. What the fuck? My parents created me. They can't do anything. They can't do everything the fuck they want with me. What the fuck do you mean? Ah! Oh my God, that blows my mind. I try to find humor in it because, dear God, it brings me down sometimes. And honestly, too, if you're an atheist watching this, I swear to God, the only things that gets me through some days is finding the humor and all that fucked up shit. But anybody would absolutely say, yeah, that shit's fucked. If that super cop had the means to act, and children were being literally in that building, and he chose not to act, they'd say that's absolutely, ooh, that was a hard rock, did you hear that? But if he chose not to act, anybody you're talking to would be like, yes, that's absolutely fucked. And then you can add on little qualifiers, the certain qualifiers that Christians usually do whenever you're calling out their super cop, Yahweh. And you can say, okay, but what if the super cop he's gonna put him in prison forever. He's gonna kill him when that guy walks out of there. So the justice is gonna be had. And it's like any normal thing, a person's gonna reply to you and say no. Because now we've lost a lot of children in there. That's not justice. Punishment alone isn't justice for a situation, and that's something that people don't realize. Punishment alone is not always justice. And yet, we have children being abused in God's own house across the whole face of this God-forsaken planet. And you know what we say when that super cop Yahweh doesn't step in and stop it? Well, I say we, but I really mean defenders of the faith. They say, oh, well, he gives them free will. Basically just saying what I was saying with the shooty situation of, oh, well, he's going to get his serving once he gets out of that building. And once he gets out of that building, I'm handcuffing him and I'm taking him to prison. Anybody knows that that's not just. That's not justice at all. But imagine this. It's even worse in Christianity, because in Christianity, Jesus, there's always a chance to forgive. The only forgivable sin, the only unforgivable sin, is blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. That's it. So in this situation, those abusers have a chance to get out of jail. Jail being hell. They have a chance to make it to the kingdom of heaven. They tell you all the time, you always have it, no matter what you've done, you have a chance with Christ. If they deviate on that, their religion breaks down and they're being dishonest. And so the situation's actually worse. Because going back to the analogy, imagine if it's, oh, well, I'm gonna handcuff him whenever he gets out of there. But imagine this. He might not go to jail. If he repents and feels bad enough for what he did to all those children in the building, he might get out of jail for good. When we put this in realistic terms that people deal with, that humans deal with on a day-to-day basis, the microcosm of the situation, we absolutely all understand on a fundamental how absolutely fucked that shit is. And yet God gets a pass. Back to this situation of we excuse abuse and we call it love. God loves you so much, he's given you the free will to turn away from him. You ever heard that? If you're a Christian, you might even agree with it. Well, considering that turning away from God is basically a one-way ticket to hell, unless you believe in annihilation theory, whatever, that's not good. That's not love either. Turning away from God is akin to walking in front of a train. And people like Ray Comfort and other Christians will get this analogy of like, we're just trying to warn you. You don't believe us, but like, imagine if we see a train and it's about to hit you, and I say, oh, Hayden, there's a train. It's coming your way. If you don't move, you're gonna die. And like, they'll analogize that to they're talking about hell and Jesus, and that's why they're trying to pull everyone in the faith and propagate it and yada, yada, yada. And so turning away from God is akin, most would agree, unless they're just being dishonest in the argument and they're just weaseling away from where they can tell that you're going with it. Walking away from God is akin to walking in front of a train. I don't know what kind of proverbial, celestial, all-knowing and apparently all-loving and just parent would say, I love my child so much, I'm going to give them the free will to walk in front of a train and I won't do shit about it. And people have the nerve to call that love. And I've only been talking for 30 minutes. I heard it takes about 60 hours or so to read the Bible. Multiply that by 10 is probably how long somebody could rant and point out how it's just not love. And people will say, well, come on, there's some good things about the Bible, and certainly there are. But in context, I don't think so. Because that's the one thing Christians always say, oh, you're taking it out of context. You point to any good verse in the Bible, I'm sorry, it's out of context. Because in the general context, in the whole grand context of the story, it's absolutely fucked. It's a situation where you are damned for no good reason other than somebody thousands of years ago disobeyed an unrealistic command that they could not understand at all. You get punished for it, and this abuser tells you, I love you so much, I will let you be tortured if you want. Except it's worse than that. Because at least in this analogy, you're hearing somebody say that. Nobody really hears God. It's a voice in their head. If you're actually hearing the voice of God, talk to a doctor. I remember as a child, I would ask my parents and I'd ask my grandparent, and ask her, I'd say, when am I going to hear God talk to me? I'd hear in church, and I was real young. I was 6, 7 years old, and I'd ask, because I'm when will God talk to me? And they would tell me certain things, and my youth pastor or my main pastor would say things like he speaks to you in your heart or in your head. He gives you feelings. You'll open up the Bible to certain verses, and he'll speak to you through that. But then also I'm hearing sermons, and something will be brought up along the lines of and once you hearken unto the voice of God. And as a kid, I'm thinking, okay, so I will hear the voice of God. And I read in my stories when I'm studying scripture, it blatantly says God will call down. He speaks. God used to walk on the face of the planet with man. Before he sent his son as him incarnate down to earth, God apparently used to walk around the earth. He was chilling, cool. But I never heard him. And I thought that there was a problem. And you know what happens when they're in that situation? They eventually sell you a ticket that says, you know what? You're the problem. And they call this love. It's no wonder people are leaving the faith in troves, and goddamn, glory be to God for it. Okay, so I wanted to add a quick clip to this video. I don't know where I'm going to fit it in. I might just put this right at the end. So this is kind of out of nowhere. That's why. And I'm running out of daylight. So one thing that I want to mention about Christianity teaching you what love is, but it's really just abuse masked under the guise of love, because God is God. Take one of my favorite verses, for example, Luke 14:26. I did a whole video on this topic. I will put a thumbnail up there so that you can easily find it. It's only a few videos down because I have not posted much over the past couple of years. But it's where Jesus says, if you want to follow me, you love not your mother, love not your father, love not your brother, your sister, your son, your daughter, and yes, even ye self. and love Christ more. Basically, he's ahead. And, like, that's, like, a no-brainer. Like, everybody understands. There's God, you know, the church, you know, there's your husband, wife, and then your children. You know what I'm saying? You got the picture of the umbrella. I might put it up here. It's like Christ, you know, the father, the mother, and then the children. Because you know how the hierarchy and the genderedness goes with that. But I think it's abusive. Now, in that verse, it actually says, he who does not hate his mother, his father, his brother, sister, son, daughter, yes, even ye self, cannot be a disciple. Like, the cost of being a disciple. And people will say, and I hit it all in that video, go watch that. If you have a tiff with this specific point, please watch that video and just go leave a comment on that one. Because honestly, out of all the comments that I'm gonna get on this video, if I do any, I'm not going to engage with the Luke 14:26 one unless it's over there. So please go watch my entire argument. It's not even my entire argument, but it's long, it's good. Just either way, just go to it. But a lot of people will be like, oh, well, he's not saying love. He's just meaning you should love him more. I don't like that neither. What do you mean? I've never met the guy. He's never hugged me, given me a handshake. He's never even let me borrow a Sprite from him or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, homie wants me to love him more than my kids? Could you imagine having like a husband or a wife and them saying, if you love your kids or your mother or yourself more than me, step away from me. Like, that would be abusive. In every situation, it's abusive. And so, and then they call that love. And they'll say, oh, well, he just wants you to hate. He just wants you to love them less. I don't like that neither. What the fuck? What the hell? And usually they'll point to the one in Mark, or I think it's Matthew, but in Matthew it doesn't use the word hate, it uses love not, which I don't really care. At the end of the day, you've got somebody who has never met me, has never spoken to me, has a bunch of middlemen, and uses a brochure that's thousands of years old, written by illiterate people that didn't even know how the frickin' water cycle works, telling me about you, and you want me to love you over my children, love you over my wife, love you over my husband, love you over my father, my mother? What the hell is this shit? Love you over myself? Yeah, loving yourself is really hard, but come on, man. But we can scrap Luke 14:26 and just go by the verse of like love not, whatever. I don't like that either. And you can go verse by verse throughout the entirety of Scripture, of every instance of something that is seen as love or seen as wholesome, that really isn't, whenever you put it into terms that we understand by our own human and social experience here on earth. That's why I was giving the example of the shooting, where no matter what, if there was somebody who was able to save those children, absolutely had all the power to do it, and still did nothing because they cared more about the abuser, or they cared more about the shooter, they cared more of the free will of the evil person, rather than the people they so claim to love and to fight for and to advocate for. That's not love. Nothing is love in this religion. It does not, it perverts love. Either way, love you guys. This video's gotten pretty damn long. I'm going to end it off here because this is a good ending point. And I had a good rant, had a good talk. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know some of your thoughts. I talked about a lot of things in this video. And as in the past, I have atheist viewers, I have Christian viewers, I've got a good number of viewers. And for the Christian ones, I gladly thank you for your patience sitting through this long and aggressive rant. I'll be honest, as a Christian, I would not have been able to do it. I'd been like I'd be fainting. I would not have been able to handle something like this. And so, give yourself a pat on the back. Chances are, if you can go through a video like this, you're doing something right. You're doing at least one thing right. Either way, let me know how you feel. Let me know if you got any stories, anything that's specific, because I brought up a few stories from my past. I brought up a story about another person. Let me know about your situations. I read a lot of them on Reddit. I hear very similar stories from other people, and, you know, to talk about it down there, I'm willing to. Honestly, I might even talk about it if you're cool with it. But let me know down below what you thought. Maybe you think I'm crazy. Maybe you agree. Maybe you've been through the same thing. Either way, please subscribe. I need to feed myself.